let's look at problem 9, step A, preparing the direct materials purchases budget. So here we have Donald, and we are evaluating the materials purchases. And down in the bottom, I have the chart. Now I've already filled in the labels on the left side. The best resource for finding those labels is Let's Walk Through It 6.7 in the textbook. And then just keep in mind that the labels are going to relate to whatever it is you're creating. So in this case, our materials are measured in linear board feet, which is why our measurements here are in linear feet. And so the easiest way to start is just to go through the data that's given and begin to fill that in. So direct materials on hand as of July 1 slightly exceeds expectations of 1,420 linear feet. So July 1 is my beginning of the period, so I would go ahead and come down here, and I'm going to fill in my beginning balance of linear feet of 1,420. Next, it tells us that each unit requires 4 linear board feet. Okay, and Donald is comfortable if the company has 20% of the following month's production needs on hand. We don't need that 20% yet. We'll come back to that. For now, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well, my linear feet of direct materials per unit is 4. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Next, it tells me my cost per linear foot is $7 with the current supplier and $7.50 with the new. We're just doing the current supplier, so I can go ahead and fill in my cost per linear foot down here. Now we have our planned production, and our planned production is given for each month. So that's our budgeted units we're going to produce. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that part of my table in. For July, August, September, and I don't have October on here, but I might need that October information. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just make a note over here that October's planned production is 1,900. Okay. And then it tells us our accounts payable balance related to June purchases is $34,000. Now, in this budget, we are just looking at how much materials we need to buy. So this is not really relevant for part A. So we can ignore that for now. Now that we have our table partially filled out, we can work on completing it. So we already have our budgeted units to be produced. We already have our linear feet. So our first step is to take our number of units and convert it to how much linear feet we need. What this says is we want to make 1,700 finished goods. Each one requires 4 feet of wood. So we're multiplying it by the 4, or I can just multiply it by the 4 I've already put up here. Okay, and it's going to be the same all the way across. So I'm just dragging my formula to calculate the total linear feet. Now we're going to add on our targeted ending direct materials inventory. That's where this 20% rule comes into play. It says Donald's comfortable if they have 20% of the following month's production needs on hand. So in July, they're going to want to prepare 20% of what's needed in August. And it's not the number of units, it's the amount of linear feet. So we're going to take the 20% and multiply it by the next month's needs. Same thing, in August, they're going to look ahead and buy 20% of the next month's needs. And same thing in September. Now, I don't have that number yet, right? So if we come back over here, we made a note that our production is 1,900 in October. Well, it's still 4 feet per board. So that means in October, their needs are 7,600. So in September, they would prepare 20% or purchase 20% of that. Next is just a subtotal. The total direct materials inventory needs is just my production needs plus that desired ending. I can go ahead and drag that across. And then I already had my beginning filled in from before, and we're subtracting out the beginning because the beginning was already purchased for us last month. Now I have to remember the end of one month is the beginning of the next. So my targeted ending in July is what I would have at the beginning of August. So I can just refer to that number. And my targeted ending in August is what I would have at the beginning of September. So I can just refer to that number. So again, the end of one month is the beginning of the next. end of this month is the beginning of the next. Alternatively, I could also calculate 20% of my current month. It would come out the same. Okay. Now I have another total. I'm taking my needs minus my beginning inventory. Dragging that across. And then lastly, we are now taking it from number of feet to the cost. So we're multiplying my number of linear feet I need times my cost to figure out my total cost on my direct materials purchased. Okay. Now I have a couple holes over here for my quarter, so I'm going to come back and fill this in. My quarter is July, August, September, so I can go ahead and just sum up this. Okay, so it's the total of those 3 months. It's 4 linear feet, so I'll go ahead and calculate that. And then the only thing that's a little bit tricky on this quarter is you're looking at the quarter as a whole. So my ending direct materials is the same as what I would have on September, right? Because that's my targeted end of the quarter. September is my end of the quarter. So I'm going to use the September number again because September is the last month in this quarter. Okay, I'm adding those. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then my beginning isn't the September beginning. It's all the way back to the beginning of my quarter, which is the July one. So I'm going to put my July beginning number in. That's a subtraction. So that minus that one. And then we're going to multiply that by the $7 to get the total for the quarter. And there we go. We have our budgeted direct materials purchases.